started recording, so I hope it will, but who knows. So for second half of this course, second half of this lesson, the plan is to finish installation software and play with it. But while you're finishing, let's do a quick introduction to Kotlin using slides till the point when software is installed already for everyone and we can play with it. I don't plan to finish all the slides for today because it's better to do some hands-on than just flipping slides. It's my personal opinion about it. So let's check how much is installed. Did you all install it Git or have it previously installed? Anybody who doesn't have it? No? What about Android Studio? Did you start installing it? Did you finish it or it's still going? Who didn't finish Android Studio installation? It's already done for everyone. Yeah, it's still going, right? So while it is going, I will do introduction to Kotlin. It's probably necessary anyway. And after this, we will run Android Studio and play with it till the end of the lesson. I plan to go through some of this part, but we will not call it dice cube. We will do it call it Hello Android and do some of it. And in the next lesson, we either clone it and explain or just continue with that, we'll see. Or I will create branch like starting branch. In this case, I will show how to switch it to the starting branch and we will do it. This is not starting branch. It is finishing presumably for today or beginning of next lesson. I did it in the morning today, this one. I created project from scratch and I copy-pasted older code to make sure that it is created, it is like it was created from scratch. I copy-pasted only things that's transferable. So let's talk about Kotlin. Kotlin language is similar to many other languages, but it's not copy-pastable at all. It is designed to be compact because Android applications written in a native way are quite large. And actually, any GUI is large. So there is no such thing as short GUI code. And you're probably familiar with Android applications in terms of using it. Lots of GUI features, and we have to code it if we want to use them, right? So this slide is just introduction to basic features of it. One feature of Kotlin which is drastically different from most of the languages, it is null safety. Similar features, but not exact, somewhat similar, exist in C# and in TypeScript. It is prevention of having null crashes, like null pointer crashes or null reference crashes. And although similar features exist in TypeScript and C#, Kotlin is specific in enforcing it. Unfortunately, it cannot catch all such things because it is using Java code that is not necessarily implementing it. Just because Kotlin language has null safety, it doesn't mean that you will never have a null pointer crash. It does have it. But most likely, compiler will catch it before actually you run it, and it will warn you that this code isn't compilable. But null crashes do happen. So it is not impossible. Operators. Operators are similar to C#, absolutely no difference. I assume that you're well familiar with C# language, so where it is absolutely the same, I'm just referring to it. Mass operators, division, remainder of the division, and similar to C#, if you divide integer by integer, result is integer. It will discard fractional part. Unlike some languages that will keep, like JavaScript. JavaScript will keep fractional part because it's not typed language. There's no distinguishing. There's no way to distinguish integers and doubles in JavaScript, right? So it assumes it. So if it is with 0.0, it means it's double, so it will keep fractional part. Similar to C#, numbers are kind of objects. In C#, numbers are objects. In Kotlin, numbers are imitations of objects. But when you write code, they behave like objects. If we compare Kotlin and C# in details, we will figure out that C# has two kinds of objects, struct and class. Struct are copied by value. It means when you assign it, it just create a copy of it. Or pass it by parameter, it will create a copy to a function. Kotlin is made compatible with Java, so it behaves differently. There is only one kind of objects. It means if you pass object as a parameter, it will pass reference. To a function, it will pass reference. So when you edit content, edit this object inside of the function, it will edit object outside. So this is where it is different from struct, because there is no such thing as struct in Kotlin. So there is only one type of objects. Type of objects, it is like classes. But numbers behave different. Numbers behave similar to struct and C# because it's imitation of the object. It's not actual objects. So numbers are passed by values, not by reference. And as you see, it is imitation, like you are actually calling. You are calling methods of the number, but it's only compiler feature. It's not under the hood. Data types. Typically, we will use int and double from the list, but sometimes it's useful to use long and short, but most of the time we will not do this. So from the previous list, we will stick to int, and from this list, we will stick to double and boolean. A float sometimes is useful when you need to stay compatible to some other code. But we will stick to int, double, and boolean most of the time, and strings, obviously. So when we multiply numbers, integers, it will result integer. When we multiply doubles, it will result double. When we do operations with double and integer, it will result in double. Similar to what you have in C#. And type is declared after column, like this. Unlike C#, when you declare it in front of the variable name. So type is declared after column, and you don't have to declare type if you assign something right away, because if you assign something right away, it will figure out type. Similar to var in C#, because when you declare a variable with var in C#, it will figure out type from assignment. So in this case, using int is not required, because it will just pick type from 6, and it will be int by default. But in this case, it is type is match because you use int to assign to something smaller, right? This type mismatch. But you can go around by using conversions, like calling method to and name of the type to convert. So if we use underscore, it's not part of the number. It is just for appearance. If we use prefix, this is converted to, in this case, long. And if you use 0x, this is hexadecimals. If you start with 0b, it's binary. But we will not use it. That's just from a slide. A string, it is one of the most common types, together with int, boolean, and double. Strings are quoted. If you need new line, you do /n, like in most languages. If you want it to be several lines, you use triple quote, similar to what you have in Python, right? Please notice that there is no semicolon, but if you really want it, you can put it, but Android Studio will tell you that it's not necessary and will annoy you to remove it. A semicolon is necessary if you have several things in one line, but otherwise, it's not necessary in the end of it. It's like in JavaScript, essentially. So as you see here, declaration is not required because we assign integer, it will figure out that it is int, like here. If you use $sign inside of a string, it is behaving like a template, similar to JavaScript template. But in JavaScript template, curly braces are strictly required after $sign. You cannot use it without curly braces. In Kotlin, they are optional unless it is causing confusion. So if you insert just variable name, you don't need to put curly braces. If you insert some code, you do. So in this case, you don't have to do that, and it will result in the string where these variable names are inserted. So it is often used inside of println statement. Difference between print and println, like in other languages, ln will add extra next line character in the end. In this case, using curly braces is required because you see, in this case, it will insert s, and dot length will be treated as a part of the template. It will not call the dot length property of it. So this will be length, but this will be this piece dot length. So if you have some kind of math or calculation, obviously curly braces is required, and dot was calculation, right? Method call. Variables. Inference, it means recover type of the variable from assignment. This is type inference. Or you can explicitly declare, sometimes explicitly declare even if you assign, just for clarity. So it's easier to explain the code. Mutable and immutable variables. You can declare variables with var and val. If you use val, you can assign it only once. If you use var, you can reassign this variable. So in this case, it is var, you assign it, and you can assign it a second time to this variable. And val, you can use the variable after that as many times as you like, but you cannot assign to it anymore. So this is var, this is val, this is mutable. You can assign score, make it 11, for example. In this case, you assign name Jennifer. You cannot assign Alex to it, or whatever. Okay. So this is fine. This is not fine because it is declared with a val. So this will cause error. And it will not compile on the Android Studio. It will be underlined in red, and it will tell you immediately. Yes?
Is that the equivalent of a constant?
What? It's a constant, essentially. When you use val, you don't have to assign it right away. If you declare type, you can assign it later, but you can do it only once. It's like a constant, yes. And it is very useful, so you don't accidentally change it if you don't want to change it in the beginning. Conditionals. If, else, loops, and while, they're quite similar, but there is one difference. If, else is actually value. You can assign if to something. And you can use if after return statement. So it will return the result of the if. So if can produce a value if you have a value inside of if, or some calculation inside of if. When is similar to switch, except switch in C#, except it is producing value if you have a value inside of it. Inside of it. For loops are somewhat similar, except it's a different language, and there are some peculiarity, while loops are exactly the same. So let's look at this. So if, as you see, it is in this line, it is like in C#, no difference. If condition is true, you print this. If condition is false, print this. You can use else if, similar to C#, no difference, right? Else if, else if. Ranges. Ranges is a special type, and it's an object, so you can call methods of it. So you can use it within, like this in range, this will produce Boolean. And this is condition. You can use ranges inside of when, and when looks similar to switch. This is valuable, this is value to do the switch, and these are conditions. Else it's none of the above, or like default inside of C#. Because in C# you can blah, 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 and default, right? And default is the bottom. So unlike C#, you use arrow, not column. And it is when, not switch. There is no break statement because break is assumed. If you need more than one piece, you use curly braces around it for each piece. So for element and for, in this case, works as for each loop. Right? I believe this is similar to C# in, right? In, and this is for each element that will print each of those. Array of is producing array. Most of the time we will use list of. Array of is used for compatibility. It has less features than list of. And list are implemented by arrays under the hood. So it is in Kotlin, lists are as efficient as arrays. So there's no point of using arrays because lists have more features, unless you need to be compatible somehow to libraries. If we need to do for each with index, with updated index, we use parentheses, index, and value. That will be for each. And we do it with index. It's for each with index. Also useful feature. We can do for loop in the range. We can do it backwards. In the range with a step. If you forget, it's fine. You can always look up. Because all coding in this course is open book. But just need to be aware that such features are available. You can do for each, like for in, with anything either range or iteratable, like arrays and lists. So while is similar to C#, while will be repeated as long as the condition is true. Do while will be repeated at least once because the condition is checked in the end. And this is repeat 2 times. Interestingly enough, this is not a structure of the language, it's a function call. So repeat, it's a function call. And in the next set of slides, we will learn why it is function call. Kotlin is designed to be extendable. So functions can behave like a part of the code, like a structure of the code. In this case, function is taking 2 parameters. First parameter is this, second parameter is this part. And this is actually a lambda expression of function divided separately, given as a parameter of this function. So this is lambda expression. Are you familiar with lambda expressions from some language or lambda functions? So in this case, it's a lambda function given as a parameter to repeat function. So just because of the feature of this language, that it may look like extra code, sometimes it's harder to understand. Because you create functions and you use it as a part of the code. This makes it compact, and it makes this actually somewhat harder to learn because you see code and you have to figure out what is going on from the code. So lists and arrays. Lists are ordered collections of elements. By default, they're implemented by arrays, so they're efficient as arrays. Elements can occur, by default, they are immutable. So when you create it, it will be immutable. List of will create such a list. You cannot add things, remove things, unless you call it mutable list of. So a list of this will create list, and println will produce the stuff. A mutable list of it will create a list where you can add things and remove things. Arrays store multiple items. You cannot change lengths, so and they're not very useful unless you want to be compatible with something else that requires arrays. So arrays of this will produce array. It doesn't come with toString, so you have to call toString explicitly. Lists, you don't have to call toString because it's built-in feature. There is a shortcuts for efficiency that will create specific type of the arrays under the hood that will be more efficient. And so int array of this, and this will create join. So there are extra features of it, and it will produce another array. It will not modify existing ones. Null safety, it is a specific feature of Kotlin that is somewhat available in other languages, but Kotlin is more strict about it. So if you want to create a variable where that can be null, you have to declare it explicitly. Otherwise, you cannot assign null. It will not compile. Compiler will figure this out. If you declare a variable that can be null, but you use it in the place where it cannot, you have to convert it explicitly with this one, and it will throw exception if it is null. Otherwise, you can use question mark operator or Elvis operator. Why it's called Elvis operator? It appears like Elvis hair, like kind of, and eyes, like a smile. So this will produce compilation error because you cannot assign something declared as integer. If you declare this as nullable integer, you can assign null anytime if you want. But compiler will enforce type checks. It will make sure that you always check for it. You cannot assign, you cannot use it in the place where it cannot be null. So if you declare this as nullable, you can call methods of it only after question mark, or inside of if that checks for null. Otherwise, it will not be compatible, compilable. How question mark behaves? If this part is null, it will not call a method of it. It will make result of it as null. So it is null safety. And do not call methods of something that can be null, or which is null. Not can be null, which is null. This, I will throw exception if this value is null. And it will also convert not nullable to not nullable. How to assign, for example, 0 when this part is producing null? You use Elvis operator. This makes result is whatever is here if this expression is null. So if number of books is null, this part will not be called. So entire piece is null, and when the entire piece is null, it will use this part. Number of books will become 0. Summary. Questions? I will quickly talk about functions, and we will play with Android Studio. How much time we have? We have time, right? 50 minutes till the end, so 10 minutes to functions. After this, we'll talk with Android Studio, and classes will just handle it as we see. Okay, or at the next lesson. So Kotlin functions. A main function is the starting point of the program, but it doesn't have to be in one place. When you start your program, you specify where to start. So it must be inside of some file if it is not an Android application. In Android application, it's not required. Android application is separate issue. If it is If it is pure Kotlin application, you need to put it somewhere, at least in one place. But it cannot be twice in one file. When you run application, you just specify the file to look for main. If you run from command line, main will receive parameters given at the command line. And parameters will be given here, and it will be array of strings, I believe. Yeah, array of strings. This is where array is useful, because it needs to be compatible to libraries. This slide says that you need that you can use IntelliJ IDEA to create it, but we will do it in Android Studio directly, create a file and put main in it. Or you can put main even with inside of some Android files if you want, but it will not run Android application. It will run just main in that file. With Android Studio, I will do demo today, so it will be immediately clear how. So it just say, if we need to pass some parameters, we give it parameter type array of strings, and it will be given as array of strings to it, so you can deal with the command line parameters, but we'll never use it. It is just for general knowledge. It says how to pass it with IntelliJ or Android Studio, with IntelliJ, but we will not use IntelliJ. Almost everything has a value. For example, if, I told you in the beginning, if you put something in the if that is a value, you can assign if or use it inside of return statement. Some functions do not return value. It will be, the type will be unit. I see if it is unit. It's called unit. It means there's no value, similar to void in C#. Functions in Kotlin. Functions are declared with keyword fun and name of the function after this. If function returns value, you use column and name of the type that it is returned. For example, this function is not returning value, so the type is not declared of the function, declared with fun. And this is returning, no, you can use unit as a return type, but it is equivalent. A parameter of this function can be string or can be null. Because it is declared with question mark. It is nullable string. Nullable string, you can assign string or null. If you don't use question mark, it's just string, you cannot pass null, otherwise it will not compile. A unit return type is optional, so you don't have to do this part. A function may have default parameters. If you assign something in the function declaration, if you don't provide it in the function call, it will use default, just exactly like in C#. Default values in function declaration. You can use names of the parameters when you call it, and it is super useful feature. I believe this is like in Python, right? In C# as well, right? You can use name of the parameters in function call. So when you call dive and name of the parameter, it will use here. These both parameters are required because we don't assign anything to it in the function declaration. In this function, last parameter is not required because we assign true. In this function, only first parameter is required. No, this is call, function call, right? We call that reformat. We provide this, and perhaps maybe something is skipped, so the rest is assigned to names of the parameters. So it's a function call. Sometimes we use it just to improve readability, it says, and I often use it even if it is explicitly even only one parameter. I say what it is, so it's easier to understand. Especially in class code that it is, or class code use it in instruction, it's useful. Compact functions. Compact functions, if it is similar like one line, you can just assign it directly to declaration. And in this case, you don't even have to declare type because it will figure out type from what you assign. So int times 2, it will be int. So lambdas of higher order function. Lambda, it is a shortcut similar to shortcut of a function that can see stuff outside. So it's not really a function, but similar. So you can use variables declared outside of it, inside of a function, inside of lambda function, similar to other languages like JavaScript. Right. So, and you can assign lambda functions to variables, and you use this variable to call it as a function, like water filter, and this is parameter of it. It is super useful because quite often we need to pass functions as a parameter of another function. So in this case, we use lambda function, or we use conversion. Double column will convert regular function to lambda function as a type. So this is a type declaration of lambda function that is taking integer and returning integer. So it's a type declaration, which is lambda function, taking integer as a parameter and returning integer as a result. And this is assignment of it. So this function will take first parameter string, second parameter is lambda function that is taking string and returning string. And function itself will return string. These kind of functions, I use it a lot and repeat it as one of those. Right? First, it's number of repetition, and second, it is lambda function that will be repeatedly called. Right? So you call it by providing a lambda function assigned to the variable, or you can directly write lambda function here, or even outside of the bracket. You can convert regular function into lambda function by double column operator to match the type. If it is last parameter of the function, you can put it outside of curly braces. This is what you saw in repeat function. So this is equivalent to that. And it makes this function as a kind of essential part of the code. Unfortunately, it is also makes code harder to understand because you have curly braces. It appears as kind of not a function call, but it's actually lambda function given to previous functions to this piece as a last parameter. But it's easy to get used to it. In a couple of weeks, it will be natural. And repeat, this is actually function that takes two parameters. List filters, I will skip it. Filters is to create, for now, filters is to create a list of from another list. It will be a new list that will keep only things based on condition. And condition is given as a lambda function returning true or false. So this will be a filter. We will use it a lot in Android programming, but at the time when we need it, I will just repeat it. There's no point of going through this right away. So this will be a filter. We will use it a lot, but not immediately. So I will stop at this point. And now we have about 45 minutes to play with Android Studio. So let's open Android Studio. When you open this first time, it may ask you to install something. So did you do that? So open Android Studio, and it will ask, if it asks you to install something, just tell me. Most likely it will be black, background will be black. I changed this to white for projector purpose only. You can keep it what you want. If you want to stay visually compatible with what is on my screen, just change it in settings. Settings it is in customize. And theme, you see dark light by default is dark, I change it to light. So this is what I changed. I also changed it. I added labels next to buttons, so it is immediately obvious. By default, it will not be text labels to buttons. Somewhere in appearance, I changed that. I know settings I found where it is. I find it at home. Just stick to what you have for now and change it if you want. It's again a matter of preference. So this is what I changed. Projects. When we create new projects, this is obvious, new project. If we want to clone, clone means copy from web repository, it is this button. You can download code directly as a zip and open it and import it in Android Studio, but it is always a bad idea. Don't do it. As a reason, when you do it, it will download code only selected branch, what you selected in Android on GitHub, only one version of the code, only last version of the code. When you clone, it will maintain links to all versions of the code and all branches. That's all you can navigate it inside of Android Studio. So cloning is always better than downloading zip from GitHub. So in this course, I will stick to cloning, and I will almost never download zip. Open means open existing project if it is not in the list. When you create at least one object, at least one project, it will be a list of projects shown here. And these buttons will not will be small buttons in here as text buttons. Okay, questions? So this is customize. Plugins by default, we don't need to change it. Learn, it is may or may not appear because I installed some plugins for learning. There is no use of plugins for learning Android. It is for learning Kotlin or something. Okay. Now let's check that installation is working. I go to more actions and I check it as SDK manager. Are you with me? It opens SDK manager and I selected hide obsolete packages and show package details. So I don't have anything selected here in preview. Do you have this the same? Nothing selected in the preview. Okay, cool. In Android 16 Baklava, I had these first two selected, and it was at least one of those selected. Is it for you? It was one selected, and I added one more selection. Don't add it right now. Just make sure that one of them selected. Is it? No? So what do you have in Android 16 Baklava? These two selected and nothing else? So don't worry at this moment. It will download things when we create a virtual device. Do not select these two. Just keep this. Nothing else. Just it's empty. Okay. So now it's verified. So let's say cancel. Next, I will create virtual device. And I open virtual devices. I have two virtual devices. You probably don't. And you have plus here to create virtual device. Right? Or button create virtual device. I have plus here because I have two virtual devices on the list. Is it true? You don't have devices. You just have a label create virtual device. Or you do? You do have one. Okay? Let's check. Do you all have at least one? Okay. And now let me show how to create virtual device. You don't have to do it because you already have one. Okay. So, but first, tell me what you have. It says Android 16 or something else. 15? 16, right? And Android 16 and medium phone. You don't have this piece because I typed this, I renamed it essentially. Okay. So when you go there and say edit, It says which one you have, Google API or Google Play. Google Play, keep it. Okay, Google, keep it. It's fine. I have one API, one Play. Okay, you can add. What is the difference? Our Play has more features. This is only. And in Play, you can run Android application from the Play Store. Google API, you can run only your own applications. It has less features. Assuming it has less stuff in it, maybe it will start faster, but I didn't find the difference. Mostly it's the same, except that you cannot run applications from Web Store, from Play Store. So let's stick to this one, Play Store, except in your case it doesn't say Play Store explicitly because I renamed it. Okay. Later in this course, when we practice or at least get introduction to developing applications for different screen sizes, we will have to do more stuff. But by default, most of the things in this course is done with medium device, a medium phone, and Android 16. So let's stick to Play Store. Okay? So whatever is by default. How to create new one? Just for curiosity, you create plus. You select what you like. This is a reasonable choice, like medium phone. Later, we will create resizable. It is experimental, but for playing with different sizes, it makes sense. Okay. Like medium phone. Next, after this, it will suggest you something. If it is not in the list, you can download, or you can select other things and download, and click next, next. This is how to create new devices. It is reasonably straightforward. Just following next instruction and reading carefully. Sometimes we need to customize it if we want more memory or some other features. But in the beginning of the course, let's stick to default unless it doesn't work for you for some reason. How to check if it is working for you? So I click cancel. You click this run button and wait. It takes time to run it first time. The same way as you run your Android hardware device first time because it needs to process things, but next time when you boot it, it's already starting with processed stuff. So first time starting will likely take longer. For me, it will take a lot less time because I ran it this before. For you, it may be longer. So Bluetooth keeps stopping. Okay, fine. Okay, I don't need Bluetooth. It's probably some issue with it, but who knows? What terminated? Try to start it again. Close it and more virtual device.
Yeah.
Oh, this could be issue. I need to figure. You need to figure out its medium phone API. So it has terminated. Anybody else has the issue with starting emulator? It starts. So it is local to your laptop. Unfortunately, and I have no clue, you need to Google issues. It is. Did you install it from scratch first time, or you had previous installation? Because it could get into conflicts.
Is it the first time? I just like.
Yeah, you probably need to Google it.
Okay.
There are ways around is to try different images. Try to do it without Play Store. Try to do it. Google API, it is smaller. Who knows? Maybe it is slightly different. It will start fine. Okay. Yes.
Mine didn't have the 16 selected automatically, so I don't know which one it has, which one to select.
You have 15 because probably you had it installed before.
Yeah, but I replaced it with this one.
But it doesn't replace what previously installed. So you can just select it manually here and click OK. It will download and install. It's one of the needs. Okay.
Do I select this?
You can. Oh, I clicked it wrong thing. Sorry, not preview. Don't do preview. This one. And do next. You don't have to uninstall it or install it. It's up to you. And click OK. It will take time, but not very long time.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Unfortunately, I cannot resolve it this quickly. It may take really a while. And for now, just watch what is going on, and it will probably take at least half an hour to find out what is going on. Okay. Did you all get it running? Cool. Now you can close it. When we run Android Studio, it will open from inside. It is just to check that it's working from here. So just close it. And when you close it, it will close this thing. Sometimes virtual device malfunction, some data gets corrupted, and it never starts. When it happens, or when you absolutely cannot run anything on it, you need to clean it. How to do it? You click on it and say wipe data. It will clean all data. It will just start with the original. It is slightly quicker than creating a new one. Another option is to delete and create it from scratch. So it does fail, and it does get corrupted, and it cannot start. If it happens to you, it cannot start, or just you cannot run anything on it. The way to do it is to open it and say wipe data. You can do it inside of Android Studio as well. When you have a project, you can stop it. You cannot wipe data when it's running. You have to stop it, the same stop button, but inside of the Android Studio, and select wipe data. Super useful. Most likely, you will have to do it several times before course ends, because it gets corrupted. And it is obvious when it is. You cannot run anything. You cannot start anyway. Okay? Another way, just delete it and create it from scratch. Now I just close it. Next. So let's create a project, and hello world. By default, it will be hello world. How to create it? You click new project. When you click new project, and now you see lots of options. The only sensible option in this course is this one. All other options are either old and no textbooks available anymore, like this, or completely different course like game development, not just different course, or this, it is some low-level development in C++, like a library, whatever. It's not current Android. Okay. Android has two versions of GUI, Views and Compose. Compose is not object-oriented. Views are object-oriented. View is the base type of all stuff on the screen. So everything on the screen is inheriting from base class views. And when we use it views, we call methods of those objects, similar to other object-oriented languages with GUI. So in order to change color of a text, you call this variable dot whatever color, or set color and colors that you assign. It is not like that in Android at all. A GUI of Android is not calling all methods of objects. It is different. GUI of the screen is described as functions inside of a functions inside of the functions. And it is not directly even Kotlin. It is pre-processed with plugins of Kotlin. When we create the project, you will see. So this, it is for all the textbooks. There is no current textbooks. There's no current tutorials for it. You will have to learn it if you have to edit some old code for your job because you ask it to. Okay? Tutorials on Google website do have some pieces. Let's insert new code into older one. Let's insert older code into new one. I will ask tutor to go through that because maybe it's a good idea to do it a tutorial. It's optional. I will not put it anywhere. It is direct instructions, step by step. So you may want to go into this. Because some of Android features are not ported from old GUI to new GUI. One feature, for example, which is not ported, it is how to display advertisement on the screen. If you want to display advertisements on the screen, you have to connect these two pieces. But there is a tutorial how to do it. Shouldn't be an issue. So some old stuff is not ported into new stuff. But in this course, we will stick to new, because by the time when you graduate, it will be more new and less old. So it is the only thing, this one. The rest, it is just nice way to look, but it is very different code. Ideas are somewhat similar, but code is drastically different. So next you need to find the location where you want to put your code. Critical part, do not put it into very long paths, because at some point it will reach a limit of operating system, because every operating system has a limited length of the path. If it is reaching that, Android Studio is also creating folders inside of it. Eventually, it may run out of it. It did happen for several students in the history of this course. Suddenly, it stops working, and messages cannot find specific file, because path is too long. Also, do not use virtual, say, cloud folders to run on your Android app. It will be extremely slow, because Android Studio creates a lot of files and edits a lot of files when it is compiling, and it will be extremely slow. Do not store your project on cloud. You can store it later, but do not store it at the time when you develop it. Okay. So use it relatively short, like your folder, projects, and name of the course, whatever. That's fine. Let's give it a reasonable name, call it Hello Android. Okay. By default, it will edit this. It doesn't have too much. You can change this part if you want. And by default, it may or may not get it here. If you change it folder, it will not add it here, so you'll have to put it manually. Make sure that when you create project, it is creating extra folder. Otherwise, it will put in the existing folder, or at least it may warn you. Do not put your project into a folder that already has a project. You will create a mess, and most likely it will not work. Just use new folder each time. It doesn't have to be the name of the project, anything. If you already have this folder, put it new, whatever, or number 2. Okay. Now, minimum SDK. If you select very back, of course, you'll have more devices running your code. If you put it latest, you'll have only less than 1% of the devices. Don't be very concerned about it, because by the time of your graduation, it will be a lot more. Because people change devices, upgrade, and it will be more. So for this reason, I will not stick to just the latest. I will use this one, 35, and use the latest by default. Okay? So it is only, you see, only 4% or 4.5%. I'm not concerned, because by the time of your graduation, it will be a lot more. If you select very old one, first, it will generate a lot more code to stay compatible, and for you, it will be harder to edit. Plus, some features will not be available. You will have to create a copies of the code per device in some scenario, with some switches in between. It's more code. So learn it only if you need it. Even for your capstone project, there is no such requirement to run it on gazillions of devices. Just make it for one, and if it works for one, it's good enough. Okay? So in this course, I'm sticking to minimal SDK 35 and run on 36 to have all features available and reasonably short code. So I will not have switches between versions inside of the code. Okay? Keep this one. Recommended. It was changed about a year ago with new version of Android Studio, and let's stick to that. Questions? Now let's click Finish and wait. First time it will be relatively slow because it will download stuff. You see that I have labels next to buttons. You don't have these labels because I changed the settings. If you want these labels next to buttons like this, look the browse settings, find where it is, and change it. Otherwise, I didn't change anything except colors. It will take time to run it first, because in your case, it is probably downloading something. Is that correct? So what you see by default, main activity. What is activity? It is description of the screen. And currently, the trend of application development is just to have one activity. It's a screen. If you need to switch to another application or call another application or put on the screen, it will be another activity. So this is the current trend. In really old Androids, like Android 3, we had to deal with multiple activities in the same app because it was the only one to change screens within the app. Currently, there are multiple ways to change content of the screen. We don't need to switch activities. So by default, we're sticking to one activity unless we need to open another app from our app. In this case, we explicitly open another activity. It will be another app. Okay. So by default, it is only one activity, unless we open another, like another app. So activity, it's a structural unit, one of the structural units of the app, describing a screen. What you see on the right here is composable functions. This is what I mean that it's not strict Kotlin code, because composable function describes part of the screen. It's not. It looks like a function, but in this case, kind of a function, but it is called repeatedly to refresh screen. So this is you cannot rely on when it's called. It is for refreshing the screen. We will need to learn how to deal with it. And logic is not top to bottom. So it's more complicated. Okay? It will be called when parameter is different or something changes on the screen, so system will call this function to refresh it. Or it refreshes triggered explicitly in your code. But if you put some println in this function, you will see it a lot on the screen, println, because it's refreshing the screen. So don't do business logic inside of composed functions, because composed functions are designed to display stuff, not to do business logic. Unless it is extremely simple logic and straightforward. So in first step, it will be like that, but later we will put it outside. Because composed functions are not designed for business logic. It may work in only simple app, but it fails miserably in anything even medium, slightly more than elementary. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We have folders, and we have app, and some switch. Okay, where's that? Project. Okay, here it is. You see a switch between Android. By default, it is Android, and this is the most useful one. What you see in Android, it is not folder structure on the hard drive. It is illogical. It is pre-processed in such a way it is easier to understand. But if you open folders on the hard drive, you will not see it this way. In order to match it exactly on hard drive, it will be harder to navigate. But if you need it, you switch it to project files. This way, you'll have folders like on hard drive. There are other options here. The most useful is Android, but it is hiding some files, and if you need to reach a file which is hidden, we switch to project files. Okay, so it is the location of the files that we see are not matching folders explicitly on the hard drive. Okay? Most of the code is here. What do you see? So your main activity, it is this one. There are other things like setting colors, types, appearance, it is here. There are also resources. Icons are here for background. And icons that you want to put on the screen, you will also put in drawables. Map, it is launcher icons. And essentially nothing else, just most likely launcher icons, values of our value resources. As you notice, there are two kinds of colors. And there are two kinds of GUI. Older GUI does not understand this. You have to use this one. But this part is understood by newer and older GUI. So you can stick to using just this one if you want. Or you want to copy-paste, easy way, so you put it there. Strings. They are XML. So if you double-click, you will see a definition of XML in terms of hexadecimals. In strings, it's also XML, and in this case, it's defining app name. It's only a place where you can define it. There is no other way. Themes, in this case, to stay compatible with older GUI. And so you can use part of the older GUI inside of your app. So you have to edit it here. Settings for that GUI. What strings are for? Strings are there, you can also define dimensions. All resources like colors, strings, dimensions can be specified per device, like per screen size, per language. So this makes it easier to change, but it's extra work. There are also other ways to change, to make application for different screen sizes inside of the code. That part is not super complicated, that is complicated. This is what I mentioned. This is just tedious. So there are two ways to deal with different screen sizes. Is to define dimensions and layouts, dimensions and kind of layouts here. It will be tedious because you have to create copies of it for different screen sizes. Or slightly smarter, but harder to learn, is to do it in the code. And this is what we will see. These are per language as well. You can create per language. This is, and it will switch automatically. When users switch preferred language on the device, it will automatically pick the language resource. Idea is to make applications easily translatable. So strings with defining strings are given to a person who understands that language and can translate English to that language. And it is only in one file, and it will be here. A dimension resource is also helpful in this sense because strings in one language could be really different in length to strings in another one. So in this case, dimensions on the screen could be adjusted because of it is different language. And so it's not here by default, but there is also a dimension resource. I will use mostly colors is here or here, depending on how. Okay. Strings, we will always define strings here. Unless it is extremely elementary application, we'll just type it in. So in main activity, you see this is hard-coded, and it should not be. It is just a demo. This is why it is hard-coded. Typically, it is defined, string is defined in string resource. So when users switch preference, Android operating system will pick code matching the language. Pick part of your application matching the language. So that part is automated. You don't have to do the switch. You just need to provide different resource for that language. Or it will just use the default one. What else did I didn't explain? This one. This is key key part of the app. It describes your application to operating system. In this particular case, it's defining name. Right? This is name of the activity that is starting. There is also, if there is application name, if there is application class, it should be defined here. This is starting filter, what to select by default. And you can have application with several entry points. For example, you have a notification about email. You click on notification, it will open email, right? It will not open from default page of your email application. So in that case, application has several entry points or several starting points, and it can be implemented very different ways. There are multiple ways of doing it. A little older ways to do it here, and it works just fine. And there are other ways to do it. If your application needs something by default, for example, access to internet, and it doesn't make sense without it, you define access to internet right here, the declaration that it needs access to internet, we will see it. Without some kind of permission to access internet, internet is not available to application. So by default, as you see, it is just mentioning application name, application launcher icon, and starting activity. If you have a fancier one, you will have fancy stuff here. Okay. So in main activity, by the way, let's start it. Let's start it, click launch. And by default, it will start app. App is launching your app. In this case, it will display stuff defined in main activity class. This means inheritance. Main activity is inheriting from component activity. It's a parent class for main activity. It doesn't have to be component activity. If you deal with older GUI, it will inherit from something else. Override means similar to overriding in C#. Means you write code inside of your child class that will be called instead of function in parent class. Okay. There is no keyword virtual in Kotlin, but you have keyword virtual in C#. The reason why we don't have keyword virtual in Kotlin because all functions are virtual. Okay, there's no point of using unless it is static. There is no keyword static as well because it is defined differently. Okay, so all functions are virtual unless they are static inside of classes of Kotlin. You can define functions outside of the class, like in C#. Some languages do not allow it. Java does not allow to define you any functions outside of the class. There is no such thing as a function outside of the class in Java. So for this reason, in order to stay compatible, Android Studio will generate a class that you don't see. It will not generate a code in Java. It will generate already compiled code, but it will have class inside. So if you have a Kotlin file like this, Android Studio will create a bytecode assuming there is a class that is called name of the file kt.class. So it will generate classes that don't exist to stay compatible with Java virtual machine. So if you create a file that doesn't have a class, it will still have one. It will still create one. Okay, and when you click app and run, it will start your application running. As you see, it will display hello Android. Do you have it? Okay. There are multiple ways to do run. By default, it is app. You can also run a file. And result will be different. When you run a file, a result will be at the bottom of the screen. And it will not be part of your application. So let's do that part. And let's stop this one and run a file. In order to run a file, this file should have a main function. So let's do fun main and do println in it. Println hello Android. Or in this case, hello Kotlin. So let's change it to hello Android. Hello Android. In order to run it, you click this one first time, and it will create entry in this drop-down list. So I run this one, run main activity KT. So you see, it created class main and activity KT. Although you don't have it, but it created this one. And now you have switch here between what you want to run. You can either run this as a file and see hello Android, or you can run as an app and get up here. It is two different things, don't get confused. This is just running main inside of the file. Running file is available only when you have a main in it. You cannot run another function. If I rename this function, it will not be runnable. Only main has such feature as run as a file. It doesn't have to be inside of activity, it can be inside of another file. So let's move it in some other file. So I highlighted it and I right click it and I go refactor move. And it suggests me to create file main KT. And this way it will move it. Are you with me? Refactor move. And now I say refactor and I accidentally moved something else as well. No. It appears like I did something naughty. What did I do? Preview. Why doesn't see greeting? It's out of sync, I believe. If this happens, try to do synchronize project. Yes. This is what happens when it goes out of sync. Synchronize this magic elephant will help. Means synchronize project. Helps a lot, happens a lot. When suddenly it misbehaves like everything appears in red, but it shouldn't be, you need to synchronize project with this magic elephant. Elephant, it is logo of Gradle. Gradle is a build system used in Android. Okay. Now it is in sync. But this doesn't work because you don't have a main inside of this file. You cannot run it as a file. First, you can delete it. So you right click and go to click on it, say delete. So it's gone. And now you go here to main and do this again. Run main KT in this case. You see this. And now you have option main KT wrap. Okay. You can add any code what you like and run it as a file. So we don't have to install separate software to learn Kotlin. We can run it inside of the file or create other files. Okay. Previously, we just tried to do it nice and separate, but I don't see a point. We save a lot of time with dealing with just one software. It is very useful if we want to create an app, just business logic, and after this add GUI. We run business logic as a file, link it to other files. We see that business logic is producing something useful. And after this, we add GUI. So this is my approach for this course in this iteration. Not to create separate project and copy-paste code, but do it directly and do it. After this, it is inserted with GUI. If you have extra files, just delete them. Now we need to wrap it up because it is time to wrap it up. It is 1:50, right? We need to finish 10 minutes because another course people may come and you may have another course starting at 2 o'clock. Right? So it is good stopping point. Unfortunately, I didn't do everything which is planned, which is okay. It is reasonable pace. So at the next lesson, we will start with adding things to this project to play with the code and create another project or clone project, and I will explain that one. So in the next lesson, I plan to explain how to do automatic testing, how to use classes, and we will start GUI most likely in the end of the next lesson or next week. Okay, so yes. Okay, just one moment, I will stop recording.